Hello, everyone. This is Keith Stone with the Center for Hellenic Studies. This is another installment of HeroesX Office Hours for version 11 of HeroesX. We're talking about Hour 11 today, the discussion question that Greg has written up for us. And that question is, in your reading of the Odyssey, do you have a sense of completion by the time you reach the end? Or do you have a sense of incompleteness, as if the story had not been fully told? Either way you answer this question, please try to back up your answer by citing one detail that you think supports your line of thinking. That's a great question. We talk about it in the college version of the course as well. But what were folks saying on the discussion board?
Well, one of them feels that he gets a sense of completion when he reads the Odyssey. He sees Odysseus as having reached his homecoming, his nostos, but not his telos, his fulfillment. So,
What does this person have what does this person mean by telos? Do they say?
Fulfillment.
Just, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and also that he doesn't need to actually die. So perhaps the final telos would be, telos is kind of, you've defined it in two ways really, haven't you, Greg? One is a fulfillment as in a final post, but also as a turning post. So.
Yes, how true.
I like to think of these people as dead already, of course. That's my angle, my emphasis, is that the whole time that the Odyssey is underway, Odysseus really, in the present of the storytelling, he's dead. You know, we're looking back on Odysseus.
Yeah, but what we get at the end of Odyssey is the funeral of Achilles. So it's not really the Odysseus funeral that we get at the end.
You know, it's so strange. I would answer my own question very differently from one day to the next, because there's so many things that are happening toward the end. Not just the reunion of Odysseus and Penelope, not just the reestablishment of Odysseus as king of Ithaca, finally, but some more disturbing things like the fact that there's a lot of cruelty going on in the vengeance against the suitors. And I know that's a more recent concern of mine, but it does invade me even now, and how he has to fumigate the palace. Well, what does that mean? And it's almost as if there were this, all right, I'll say it, pollution, this miasma, in connection with what he does, and that's including the cruelties. And then what amazes me, and the participants might be more amazed after they reach the three plays, the three dramas of Aeschylus, where in the end it's the goddess Athena who stops an ongoing feud. So when Sarah was talking about telos, so was it Sarah or Hélène? Telos has a kind of ritual dimension of what it is to be fulfilled, and in a way, the stopping of a vendetta, an endless cycle of blood feuding, is a telos in a coming full circle kind of way. So I don't know. There's that. Of course, there is the death question, and I'm so glad that both Hélène and Sarah brought that up. Is you have these predictions of the death of Odysseus in 11, in Odyssey 11, but then that doesn't really get developed much further in the end. There are many possible answers.
What else did folks have to say? Speaking of other possible answers.
Well, one comment is that, as you were mentioning, Greg, that Athena comes in and stops that slaughter that's going on and the vengeance and so forth. But it seems fairly abrupt, and comments that the conflict leaves the possibility it might take at least a while longer for things to return to the way they had been before Odysseus left for Troy. And I wonder if things would return to the way they were, or if it would be something different.
Well, it probably will never become normal because he's got to move on again. So he's not going to stay in Ithaca. He's going to have other adventures which are outside of Ithaca. So this is as close as you can get to the king taking his kingdom, because then he's going to leave it again, and presumably there'll be more chaos. Presumably.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and there is also the anger of the parents of the suitors.
Yes, but the nice thing is, if Athena says this must stop, it has to stop. There's no question.
Yes.
You know, just as, and this is a spoiler alert to those participants who have not yet read the 3 dramas of Aeschylus, but you'll see a similar act of finality where the goddess simply says, "This will stop now."
At the beginning of the epics,
yes,
we learned that when Athena pulls you by the hair, you stop.
Yeah, you stop. You just stop. No questioning.
So if I can pick up another comment here, somebody said that, you know, there's so many themes and storylines going on, and to this person, the only one that seems really complete is the being Odysseus being reunited with Telemachus, Laertes, Penelope, and some of the servants. And comments also that given all the distrust, dissembling, masquerades, and deceits prior to this, that this is no small accomplishment. And we were talking a bit last time about the deceitfulness. So that if that's the only one that's perhaps really got a sense of completion for this person, and there are some other loose ends kind of hanging about it, I think.
And you know, dear Sarah, another problem is that if Richard Martin is right, and I think he is, in that beautiful article he wrote for Colby Quarterly, in a sense, once these characters like Achilles and Odysseus leave the stage, there are no more epic heroes. That's it. And the next generation are simply ancestors of heroic genealogies. A good example is Pisistratus, the son of Nestor, who becomes the the ancestor of the dynasty that was in charge in Athens in many decades of the 6th century BCE. So I think for Richard Martin, okay, you can have other adventures. He may leave Ithaca again, but those are almost variations on a theme. It's hard to imagine those as being sequential. It's also hard to imagine any one version of Odysseus's death. The version that we have in 11 is so convoluted. There's so many different ways to imagine that the plot summary we have of the so-called Telegonia, where it turns out that Odysseus had a son when he was hanging out with Circe, and then this son inadvertently killed the father. I still remember my history professor at Indiana University. I was very young, and he just said, he retold that story about the death of Odysseus at the hands of Telegonus, who is the son of Odysseus, and that's I hope I have that right. Yes, of Circe. He said the Greeks just can't leave a good story alone. That's not a good way to say it, but that has stuck with me.
Yes. There's also a note from a participant, and you know, and he notes that Odysseus has to go again, leave home, and then he's got to make offerings to Poseidon when it's the right time, and then after that he will be able to come home and die, or you know. So
yeah. So it's almost like one story at a time, folks. and it's hard to think of the different kinds of ending for the Odyssey outside of our Odyssey, even though we know they existed, because some of these endings are mutually exclusive. So maybe I have no right to say, oh, he's going to go away again. Well, maybe I'm assuming that certainly there's nothing that guarantees that he'll go away. Although you would say, well, it does. It is guaranteed in the prophecy of Tiresias.
And I think he tells Penelope that he's going to have to go as well, doesn't he?
Well, you're right. You know, Sarah, you nailed it. So I guess it's just looming there, isn't it? It's just looming.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
And we don't have an ending for Achilles in Iliad either. I mean, you know. So the Iliad is also open-ended. Yeah, and the Odyssey is open-ended.
Yeah, it too is open-ended. And in a sense, that's the way our version of the Iliad ends. It has a very nice funeral where there's no pollution, unlike the funeral of Patroclus in 23. I'm now convinced that funeral is polluted. It's not right. If you're going to have human sacrifice, that's not a model for anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it, that both epics and or towards the end they have this sort of polluting thing, and you were referring earlier to the way that Odysseus and Telemachus treat the.
Oh, it's just horrible. And we can't just say, oh, in those days, justice was swift. I've heard commentaries like that. No, I think that the reception of the Odyssey is such that it is expected for the receivers already back then to be shocked at the cruelty.
Yes.
And that's why Odysseus has to fumigate the place afterwards. Mm-hmm. And then something else that really gets to me is that if we follow the reasoning of Olga Levaniuk in her beautiful book, The Eve of the Festival, in a sense, the horrors of cruelty that happen with the killing of the suitors and their collaborators is like a grim etiology for a beautiful festival of Apollo where everybody's having a great time. And we moderns, we just can't think of it that way because, hey, that's their future, not our future. But we have to think of it that way. In other words, whatever ghastly things happen lead to a seasonally recurrent celebration of the coming of springtime. The swallows come back. It's Apollo's birthday. It's the new moon. It's all those beautiful things coming together and people are happy. But we don't see that because the way the suitors celebrate the Feast of Apollo is still polluted. And then the way Odysseus kills them is polluted. So you have to have that purification before the heroic age is over. And then once the heroic age is over, then we can all have fun at Apollo's new moon festival.
Mm-hmm. One of the comments here is about the name of Odysseus, and that there's still all this sort of child of anger or something when Telemachus named him, and that he still has that. That's still unresolved, really.
Oh, yeah. And it goes back, I guess, to the primal wound inflicted by the boar when he's initiated. That pain will never stop. The pain of adulthood, you could say.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I should say not just pain, but hatred. Both ideas are, may I put it this way, poetically etymologized in the Odyssey. Not just the pain in the episode of the wild boar and the hunting down of the wild boar, but the hate when at the beginning Poseidon is confronted. Why so much hatred for Odysseus, Odysseus? And that is also a poeticized etymology. Notice I'm trying not to say folk etymology, because folk etymology implies something that's a little too frivolous. That's why I don't like it. I say poeticized etymology.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so somebody's been picking up on that deal with Poseidon, and as we've been speaking about earlier, he was going to have to go off and make a sacrifice. But until he does that, that antagonism with Poseidon is still unresolved, I think.
Oh yeah.
Well, anything else we should bring forward from?
Oh, about 1,000 other things, but
we can retell the Odyssey before we're done.
Yes.
And this was such an enjoyable conversation. I'm so grateful to the respondents because participating in this kind of discussion is not easy. There are so many loose ends. But one thing I'm convinced of is that the art form itself helps us tie up the loose ends. It's just that we have only so many fingers.
Yes.
That's fun.
Yes. Reading it and reading it again, and
Oh, yes.
You think you've not maybe put a little bow around one bit and another bit comes loose.
It's so true. No matter how many times you read it, you have to read it again.
Yes. Very
Well,
cool.
But that's a pleasure. That's not a condemnation. That's a pleasure.
Indeed.
It's a I know how to say it. It's an eternal return of pleasure. How's that?
Great.
Sounds pretty good.
Yes.
Well, on that note.
On that note.
I'll thank you, Greg.
We're not
and you,
finished.
Sarah.
We're just saying so
you,
long
Alan.
for now.
So long for now. See you next time when we discuss
Till the
hours
next time.
12 and 13.
Bye.